Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. This is amazing. Well done, OP. So many people forget that just by getting higher on the ladder, you won't suddenly get superpowers to fix everything under you. Picking a fight like that's something few people would have balls for, especially when they just started. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. So we have enough staff, do we? Okay, so nowadays I teach, but I had done every job under the sun before I started working in healthcare. Healthcare was a dream for me and have spent the last 18 years working in it, now teaching it. So a bit of background first, this is important. I used to work for one of the largest healthcare providers in the UK, a publicly traded company. I started as a support worker and worked my way up. Eventually, I ended up managing my service for a couple years before moving on. My first week as a manager, and I was full of confidence. I could turn this place into the best service in the company. That was until I saw my budget. Now let me note that I had the hardest working team of people I had ever met in my life. My staff cared, and because they cared, the company had been taking the piss. Staffing levels were half of what they should have been at the point when I became manager. Staff ran around like lunatics trying to provide the best care possible. I went for a meeting at head office and essentially asked for a budget large enough to double my workforce and some extra to promote and train some of our hardest working staff. I was essentially laughed out of the room. I was told that our service had always been one of the best in the company with the current budget, and that maybe I lacked managerial skills, and if I wanted more money in the budget, I would have to justify it. Fine, I will justify it. I left the meeting a touch annoyed, and my operations manager caught up with me. Now, Pickle Rick, don't do anything silly. You just got this job, and I know what you can be like. She gave me a little wink at this point. I truly believe she knew what was coming. I went and booked a staff meeting, every staff member to attend. I categorically told my staff that under no circumstances were they to cut even the most minute of corners to save time. It was to be done from that point onwards by the book, of which I proceeded to hand them said books, policies, procedures, and the likes. The staff were in an uproar, saying how person care would suffer, things would get missed. I'd been one of them. How could I not see that? With the biggest crap-eating grin, I looked them all in the eye and said, I know. You know I know. I don't want any of you getting in trouble and working yourselves to death for a company who doesn't care. I care. Send all the complaints to me, do it officially, do it in writing, and it starts now. Well, the crap hit the fan. Staff were no longer running themselves ragged, they were taking their breaks, they were following the rules, and the entire service to a massive nosedive. I sent all complaints on to my operations manager. In the meantime, I sat down and produced a 36-page document detailing the absolute best minimal care needs of the service, how many people needed medication rounds, likely support with toileting, help getting dressed, everything. But the bare minimum. No additional support, no conversation, no extra treatments, and with my current staffing levels, was able to show that staff had to be working 80-hour weeks. To just scratch this. I got called to a meeting with head office 4 days later and was essentially told over the phone that it was likely I would lose my job. I walked into the meeting with my operations manager, my area manager, and 2 of the company directors. They started to read me my rights when I dumped this 4 copies of this document on the table. Please read this. All of this before we continue. I was asked to leave the room whilst they read it. I was called back into the room and one of the directors looked absolutely disgusted. How has this never come up before? I explained it had, and explained the conversations from last time I was here. The director said to go with him and walked me straight into a meeting, made all board members read the document, they all reacted the same. I was essentially told to go and fix it, forget the budget, and do what needs doing. I was given free rein, I increased staff wages, hired some new staff, and promoted a few as well. The problem ceased, the care went up, and was rated as exceptional for every year after that, thanks to the dedication of our team. A few people at head office lost their jobs after an investigation. Turns out some very senior people had been padding their own bonuses by keeping costs down. I don't know much about that, but was told at least that much. Whoa. Are you saying that paying people a decent wage, giving them hope of upward mobility, and staffing appropriately will result in increased efficiency? How have we never heard this before? And our second story. I promise I do not work here. To set the stage, I have a system for shopping, especially at places like Target, where I'm likely to wind up with a bunch of stuff I don't need. If I only need one or two things, I absolutely will not get a cart or a basket, because if I have the space, I'll probably fill it. So I do still buy more stuff than I need, but it's reduced this way. I run into Target one morning wearing a black long-sleeve shirt and jeans. My hair's in a messy bun. All I need is some 3M hooks and duct tape. But, well, it's October and there's Halloween stuff out, so I wind up with a set of bat-shaped string lights, a box of pumpkin bar mix, and some random assorted treats as well. My husband texts and asks me to pick up some peanut butter, so I head over that way, and I'm staring at the jars trying to remember which brand he likes when I hear someone clearing their throat. I ignore it. More throat clearing, followed by, "Excuse me," said in the most annoyed, entitled tone you can imagine. I ignore this too, because, well, I have anxiety issues and I tend to avoid people. After a moment, this evil-looking crone of a woman grabs my arm and makes me drop the peanut butter jar, which broke on the floor. She ignores that. "Protein shakes, low carb," she demands, as if I could somehow summon them for her. I scowl. "I don't work here," I snap, returning to the peanut butter shelf. "But you got all that," she snarls, gesturing at the things in my arms. "You mean the stuff I'm actually buying? Because I'm a customer who does not work here." "You just don't want to help me, you nasty little thing," she shrieks. Even if I did work there, I wouldn't want to help her. I ignore her, grab a new jar, and go to tell an actual employee about the broken one on the floor. "Protein shakes," she howls like a rabid hyena caught in a trap, "and clean this effing mess you made up." I make a beeline for the front of the store and eventually lose the crazy woman near the housewares, where I pick up an awesome T-Rex cookie jar and a new water bottle, then head up front to buy all the stuff I'd accumulated. On the way to the registers, I noticed that someone had knocked a few t-shirts off a display in the girls' department, so being a decent human, I stooped to pick them up when out of nowhere, she descends on me as if she'd been waiting in the wings for just that moment. "I knew you worked here," she screams, drawing the attention of everyone in the area. "I'm going to have you fired for this." Yeah, good luck with that. Yes, this woman was a raging lunatic, but I can't help but wonder, how did you manage to carry all of that without a cart or basket? This isn't a casino shuttle, sir. So I live in a mining town in northeastern Nevada. We have several casinos and a small airline to bring in tourists into town to play the slots, and free casino shuttles, important later, to drive customers around town. We also get a lot of contractors, drillers, tramp miners, and such that will stay at the casinos and enjoy the nightlife. This happened to my mother-in-law about 16 years ago, right before my wife and I met. My in-laws had 9 kids. They didn't own a TV or something. My wife is the second oldest, and her youngest sister was about 2 when this happened. My father-in-law would take his paycheck down to one of the casinos to cash it on payday, not because he gambled or drank, but for the coupon for the buffet. After all, they had 9 kids. So one payday, they loaded up the kids in the 15-passenger van. You're probably guessing where this is going. And my mother-in-law drove my father-in-law down to the casino to cash his paycheck. She pulled up under the awning at the front door and dropped him off. She stayed parked under the awning in the shade with the kids, like 7 of the 9. She was just reading a book while she waited, not really paying attention. All of a sudden, not one, but both the passenger door and side sliding door opened, and a group of men with drinks and cigarettes in hand started climbing in. The guy who jumped in the passenger seat started giving her directions on where they wanted to go, while the guys climbing in the back seats just froze. As they were climbing into the side door, they came face to face with 2 little girls in toddler seats and 5 other cherubs looking over the seats at them. My mother-in-law was just sitting there with a shocked look on her face as the guy in the passenger seat was still cussing up a storm and still hadn't realized what was going on. I don't know if it was my mother-in-law's shocked and confused look or not hearing his friends laughing in the back seat, but he realized something was up. He slowly turned around to see a whole gaggle of confused and slightly scared kids. His gaze turned back to my mother-in-law. "This isn't the casino shuttle, is it?" he asked. "Nope," she replied. "It's not." All the men were very apologetic and really felt bad. They weren't bad men, they didn't throw a fit. All in all, it was a pretty happy ending, aside from a little scared of the kiddos. But they all still laugh about it to this day. Moral of the story, if you drive a big white van, don't sit parked with the engine running outside the front door of a casino. Still, it's good to know that some people can smoke, drink, and gamble and still apologize when they make a mistake. And our last story. Bye-bye, HOA. Believe it or not, when I bought my house in a quiet neighborhood, there was no HOA in sight. I had my realtor check it out and even got my lawyer to go over all the paperwork with a fine-tooth comb. Land was as clean as a baby's beer mug. But lo and behold, seems like the neighborhood HOA folks thought otherwise. Like that old saying goes, you see what you want to see, a-hole. No wonder, HOA popped up out of nowhere on April 22nd. Bet Karen marks her calendar for that day every year. The minute my wife and I rolled up to our new digs, an HOA rep comes by in the evening bearing the gift of cheapest wine you could and a big old stack of papers for us to sign up. Said we had a choice to join their fancy community and get a say in what happens around our street or just be a duck floating downstream. What the heck? Seems like my no thanks was taken as a personal insult and a declaration of war. But I ain't no duck. I live my life free of compromise, stepping into shadows without a peep of complaint or regret, and ain't nobody gonna call me a duck in my own home. Turns out, Rep might have been hard of hearing too, because invitations to join kept coming in the mail every week. A couple of months down the line, fines for not paying HOA dues start landing in my mailbox. I called number on those HOA flyers, and the person on the line picked up like they'd been waiting for my call all along. "Sweetheart, we dug up some old papers on this land and confirmed it's part of HOA, like it or not, so we're expecting those fine and dues payments, or we'll see you in court." I nearly let loose a string of choice words right then and there, but I kept my cool and got in touch with my lawyer. He reassured me, said he checked everything out when we bought the place, and was sure there was nothing to worry about. So I relaxed until I got a court summons and a lovely gift of dog crap in my mailbox. In court, they whipped out some ancient document with Mr. Green's name on it, a fellow who owned the place 3 owners before me and supposedly agreed to join HOA. My lawyer laid out all the documents on land, and not a single mention of HOA was to be found. He also pointed out if my land was part of HOA, why the heck were they inviting me to join for 3 months straight? The judge ordered HOA to cover all the legal fees and even slapped them with paying me $10,000 for trouble. After that, not a peep from that bunch of bats. And all the Karens and HOA board members will look up and shout, "Save us!" And I'll look down and whisper, "Get off my lawn. It's my private property." Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.